You've seen the headlines, right? A giant company like Amazon announces it's building a massive fulfillment center in town. And almost immediately, the debate begins. Is this a golden ticket, bringing tons of jobs and prosperity? Or is it a Trojan horse, driving up costs and changing the city for the worse? This conversation is happening in communities all over the country.
So let's make it personal. Imagine that announcement was for your city. Should you be popping the champagne or getting ready to protest? Well, instead of just guessing, we're going to dig into a huge economic study that actually crunched the numbers to find a real, data-driven answer. All right, let's get into it. But first, you've got to understand the sheer scale we're talking about here. This isn't just a warehouse here and there. Back in 2010, Amazon had only 17 of these fulfillment centers in the entire US. Fast forward to 2021, and that number has exploded. I mean, literally exploded to over 1,200 warehouses in more than 150 different metro areas. That kind of rapid, widespread growth makes figuring out its true impact, well, it's absolutely crucial. Okay, so let's start with the big one, the thing everyone talks about. Jobs. This is always the headline that politicians and news reports focus on. But as you're about to see, the story is way more complicated than just a simple jobs created number.
And right off the bat, the news looks pretty darn good. The data shows that when Amazon moves into a metro area, the total employment rate gets a solid 1 percentage point bump. That's a clear, measurable boost, and it's exactly what everyone is hoping for. But where are all these new jobs actually coming from? Now, this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about adding jobs, it's a complete restructuring of the local economy. You can see the share of jobs in old school retail and wholesale trade actually goes down. But meanwhile, warehousing jobs, as you'd expect, just skyrocket by 40%. And look at this, there's even a cool spillover effect with a nice little bump in what are called tradable services, things like finance and professional work. So who actually gets these new jobs? I mean, this chart tells the whole story. It's crystal clear. The employment gains are overwhelmingly concentrated among workers who don't have a college degree. Younger workers see a bit of a benefit too. But for college-educated workers, Amazon's arrival has basically zero direct impact on their employment. So no, the benefits are definitely not spread evenly. Okay, so we've got more jobs, especially for one group of workers. But that's only half the story. Now we have to flip the coin over, because it turns out every single one of those new jobs comes with a hidden price tag that affects, well, everyone. For a lot of folks, the first hit they feel is right here, rent. On average, local rents tick up by 1.1%. Now, that might not sound like a crazy number, but if you're a renter, that's a real immediate increase to what is probably your biggest monthly bill. But here's the real shocker. Your utility costs, electricity, gas, water, they jump by an average of 6%. That is a huge increase. It's likely driven by the massive energy and water demands of the new warehouses, plus all the new economic activity. And this is a cost that hits every single household in the area. All right, so just to recap, we've got more jobs for some, but higher rent and utility bills for everybody. It sounds like a pretty tough trade-off, right? But there is one group that has a completely different experience, a group that, frankly, makes out like bandits. And wow, here it is. This is the main event. While rents went up a little bit, home values went up a lot. We're talking an average of 5.6%. For anyone who owns a home in that area, this is a massive increase in the value of their single biggest asset. So here's the bottom line. What this all boils down to, the Amazon effect creates two totally different realities in the same city. If you're a renter, you're getting hit with rising costs that eat away at your budget. Your overall quality of life might actually go down a bit. But if you're a homeowner, you capture almost all of the financial gains. It really all comes down to one question. Do you rent or do you own? So we've got jobs going up, costs going up, and home values going through the roof. How in the world do you balance all of that to get a final answer to our question? Well, to figure that out, economists use this cool concept called economic welfare to get a single bottom line number. So what is economic welfare? The simplest way to think about it is like a balance sheet for your quality of life. It tries to put a dollar figure on the total change. It takes all the good stuff, like new jobs, and then it subtracts all the bad stuff, like higher bills, to see if people are, on average, better or worse off in the end. Okay, so let's look at the final breakdown. The single biggest driver here, and it's not even close, is the gain from rising home values. It adds the equivalent of $419 per person per year. Now, the gains from jobs, yeah, they're positive, but they are tiny in comparison. On the other side, there are real costs. There's a drop in what economists call non-wage amenities. Think more traffic, more noise. That costs about $108. The higher cost of living subtracts another $39. But when you do all the math, the net effect is positive, an extra $329 per person per year. And it is overwhelmingly, completely driven by that one factor, how.
And if you need any more proof, just listen to this quote from the researcher himself. He says that all the stuff we argue about, the jobs, the wages, the types of industry, all of that only makes up about 10% of the actual measurable benefit to the community. The other 90%? It's all about what happens to the housing market. So the big takeaway here is a really powerful one. It basically reframes this entire conversation. The next time you hear about a huge company moving into a city, the most important question to ask isn't just how many jobs will this create? It's what's this going to do to home values? What's it going to do to rents? And maybe most importantly, who really stands to win? Because as this data shows, that's where the real story is.